Please welcome John Carpenter.
How are you guys today? All right.
Okay, I'll start with a question. Considering the jump in technology, and I'm talking about CGI, if you had a chance to shoot the thing today, would you do it any differently?
For the most part, no. CGI is a great tool, however. It's a great tool. Just think of Jurassic Park. And think of those are a bunch of men in suits running around out there. How stupid that would look. So for some things, CGI is fabulous. But for the most part, throughout the movie, we got by with a bunch of rubber, with a bunch of slime on it. But the very end, when this last creature stands up, we could have used it there. That's the one place.
So are there any other questions from the audience? That lady over there.
Hi, John. It's really cool to see you here.
How you doing?
I'm good. My question is about Halloween. I read in a book called Shock Value by a writer named Jason Zinnemann that Halloween basically the main plot kind of came from a conversation that you had with Bob Clark where you asked him if he ever just had any ideas for a sequel to Black Christmas. And he said that if he were to make a sequel, it would basically, the plot would be Billy escaping from an asylum and it would take place on Halloween. So is this true?
It's bullshit.
Okay. That's why I asked.
Bob Clark was a very nice guy. He and I traveled together. I was a producer at the time. He was going to direct a movie I'd written. He was a very nice man. And I saw Black Christmas, and Black Christmas is exactly what I did not want to do with Halloween. It was an entirely different direction. So no, that's not true at all.
The guy over there.
Hi, great to be here. Awesome to be this close to you. That's just amazing.
Thank you.
Did you have any input on the remake of The Thing? And if not, why not? Because you really should have done.
I had zero input. There are two kinds of remakes of my movies. If I've written it, if I've come up with the idea, there's a brilliant moment that happens when they get ready to make the movie. I'm sitting on my couch, and I extend my hand, and a check drops in my hand. And I continue playing video games. So, the other type of remake is when the studio owns the material, and I get a zero. And they didn't ask me. They were very kind. The producer brought me in and buttered me up a little bit. Well, we're going to do the Norwegian camp. And great, it's nice to see you. I didn't even get a cup of coffee out of it. That they went off and made their movie, and it was what they wanted to do. And that's just fine.
Okay.
Hi, John. I really love The Thing.
Thank you.
What do you think of the short story The Things, told from the point of view of The Thing? Don't know if you've read it.
Which short story are you talking about?
It's called The Things, and it's told from the point of view of The Thing.
I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's go to...
We're left-sided prejudice. There's a young man right over here. Look at him. He's ready to go. Look at him.
I was going to ask you a question about the Apocalypse trilogy.
Uh-huh.
I was wondering at what point you realized that the films were related, and in what way you would say they're related.
Well, I think it was this, the Prince of Darkness. When I was making that, I realized essentially this is about the end of the world. You don't really say it, but it is about the end of things, the end of days. And I realized, well, I've been here before. The Thing was about the end of days, too. It didn't really say it out clearly. The characters didn't spell that out. But that's what it was about, because there's no way to escape from it. when you look at it. It's a hopeless situation. And I thought, well, I could play around with this a little bit. I would add a little TV thing I did to the Apocalypse. I'd make it a quartet. It was called Cigarette Burns. It was also essentially about the end of things in a way. It was a movie you could watch that would sort of end the world. But I realized that, you know, you can't make too many of those because they're grim and depressing, and the audience doesn't like that. The audience wants happy things, upbeat things, smiling things.
I see a guy over here with a mic.
Hello, John.
Hey.
My question is, how do you feel about the current direction of mainstream horror films kind of turning more into like torture porn stuff, like Hostel and those kind of movies?
Now, I sense an attitude in your question.
I'm not a big fan of those movies, just because I don't appreciate the drive to try and make it as realistic and disgusting as possible. Without, in my own opinion, I don't feel that it's really creative. It's just kind of making it gross.
But didn't you enjoy Saw? Wouldn't you think that was fun?
I enjoyed the first Saw.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the first Saw was good.
Yeah.
But I enjoy when there's a bit more creativity in it.
I don't know. What's the most recent torture porn movie you've seen? I'm not familiar.
Human Centipede?
What's that?
The Human Centipede?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just, I don't know, man. It's okay.
Fair enough.
What are you going to do? What I get upset by is that in a lot of horror films, no one's reinventing things anymore. They're recycling things. I wish, you know, we need directors and writers to come along and reframe and reinvent the genre. There was a movie years ago, I forget how many, called Let the Right One In.
Yes.
That took the vampire myth and finally just cast it in a new light and brought something new to it. I really like that movie. So, but it's okay. Torture's okay.
Please.
Hi, John.
Hey.
Characters in your movies are quite often known for their really pithy one-liners and that become sort of internet or memes or sound bites. I was just wondering if any of that is intentional, or are you often surprised at what happens to catch with the public?
I'm always surprised what catches with the public. That's for sure. I'm delighted that some of the things that I've written become catchphrases, but not enough because I don't get paid for it enough. But I've been really lucky in my career, and I've had a great time making movies. So you don't worry about that kind of thing.
Please.
Hi, Mr. Carpenter.
Hi.
I'm a really big fan of The Fog. I love that movie. I think it's one of the most underappreciated ones because sometimes fans will talk to who haven't heard of it.
I'm having a little trouble hearing
Oh,
you.
sorry.
That's okay.
I love The Fog, and I love the setting, that sort of coastal, sleepy town. I was actually wondering if you just want to talk about how the idea of the setting came to you, just, what was the inspiration for this story, because it's sort of the one I don't hear talked about a lot, but I love that movie, so.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. That was a movie. The Fog was a movie that had a lot of problems to it when I was making it. I had to do a lot of reshooting. It came from a trip I took to England in 1977. It was at Stonehenge, visiting it for the first time, and the fog drifted over. And it was just a great mood. So we concocted this little ghost story based on a real story that happened in California, back just outside of Santa Barbara in Goleta. It's a little town outside of Santa Barbara. In the 1800s, there were ships coming in, bringing in gold, and these town fathers went out and moved the light they were following to land and put it by the rocks, so the ships crashed, and they looted the gold. So I took that real story and made it into a ghost story. But it's probably, it comes from old movies I saw as a kid. Believe it or not, there was an old science fiction movie called The Crawling Eye, which was unbelievably bad but fabulous. And I probably stole a lot from that. And it was a B movie. We worked real hard on it. It had some nice mood. It had Dean Cundy's cinematography and an incredible location in Point Reyes, California. I actually bought a house up there after The Fog. It was just gorgeous. So I appreciate your caring and love of The Fog. Thank you very much.
Okay, the little spaceball gal with the awesome costume.
Um, oh, sorry. I just want to say I'm a big fan of your movies, and I was wondering what was the one you were most proud of?
That's impossible to say. It really is hard to say. I don't look at my movies anymore because I hate them all.
That makes sense.
I look at a scene from my movies and I think, what was I thinking? I was asleep. Why did I shoot it that way? Why didn't I cut? What isn't it faster? Why isn't it better? So I don't know. I have no idea.
Sorry. Please.
Is this on? Okay, there you go. Hey, John. Big fan. This is kind of a weird question now, following up on that, because I was about to ask if you had to see another one of your movies remade, which one would you pick?
If I had to see another one of my films, you'd have to pay me. And it would depend on how much you'd be willing to spend is the movie that I'd look at. All right? I don't want to see him. Guys, when you make a movie, you've seen it 60, 70, 100 times. I don't need to see him anymore. I know what I did.
Please.
Hey, this isn't a question, but I saw all of the Masters of Horror, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but yours was definitely the best one that was made.
You have unbelievable taste. Thank you.
Hi, I'm especially a big fan of the scores and the soundtracks that you do with your films, and I was wondering if you could talk about the process of scoring a film. Like, does it start with the inception of the idea, or does it all happen at the end, or?
Well, I had a background in music, so that was just something that I grew up with. My dad was a musician. And I started doing this in scoring in film school because when you have no money, you need to get music from someplace, so either you get it from a record or something like that. So I would do little scores for student films. And when I started making my own movies, I scored my films because I was cheap and I was fast. And we couldn't afford anybody. And so I kept doing it, and all of a sudden it became another voice, another creative voice. And how I did it, with a very few exceptions, was I cut the movie together, and I put it on a video screen, and I hook it up with synthesizers, and improvise. Because movie music is meant to underpin what you're looking at, and support it, and be there for it. It's not meant to necessarily live on its own, although sometimes it does. So that's the way I've always approached scoring. I don't know how much more of it I'm going to do because it's too hard work. I'm a lazy kind of guy. I got my son involved in music now. He's doing some scoring, and I enjoy working with him. But luckily, some of my scores I did all right, so I'm happy.
Okay. Go over there.
You have to. This handsome young dude down here has been raising his hand. After this young man over here, let's go to him. Okay? You guys give him.
You're the boss.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carpenter, big fan. The thing I use as a barometer for whether I'm going to be friends with someone or not. If they don't like it, I won't. But my question is, a lot of your movies, obviously, you're known as a master of horror, but you do comedy really well as well. And I'm wondering if that comes from the same place for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't really know the answer to that. I think maybe comedy comes from my worldview, which is rather dark sometimes. Oddly enough, I'm a short-term pessimist, but a long-term optimist. I really think that things will work out long range, but short-term, they're fucked. And I think it comes out of just the way I look at life, I think. But thank you, that's great. That's a great compliment. Yes. Stand up, young man.
You're very handsome yourself. I was just wanted to ask about They Live. That's one of my favorite movies that you've made.
Thank you.
And I just cool. I was wondering, like, what inspired you to make that movie? Like, did you find there's a lot of truth behind that movie? Like, well, I believe there is. I just wondered, like, what your thoughts are on that as well. Like, your inspiration to make it. Like, if you believe that there is crazy government conspiracies, telling you to sleep, obey, consume, you know.
Well, I grew up, I came of age in the late 50s and 60s when the American culture was really changing. And we had the Vietnam War, and we had drugs and sex and rock and roll. It came into the white middle class, and it was just wonderful. I mean, unbelievable. The Vietnam part wasn't so good, but the rest of it was sensational. So I'm a die-hard left-wing kind of guy, and all of a sudden along comes Ronald Reagan and Reaganomics. And I was so shocked by the sellout of my country and the worship of money and the values that I grew up with were discarded. And I got more and more pissed off as the years went on. So I got this opportunity to make any movie I wanted, and I wanted to make a movie about Reaganomics from the point of view of the working poor. So I chose to make a B science fiction movie to kind of take the edge off of it, because I didn't want it to be, you know, that would be dull. It would be dull if all you did was stand there and rant and preach to people. So that's where it came from. And I cast a professional wrestler in the lead, and we have a great little fight in the film. So it turned out okay.
Thank you.
All the way to the top.
Which one of the remakes of your films one of your favorites?
Which ones?
Yeah.
I thought there was a remake of Assault on Precinct 13 that was pretty good. I kind of like that one.
Okay, the one in the back.
I've been wondering for a long time, you've worked with so many people over the amazing career you've had. Is there anybody you've always wanted to work with but never had a chance to, and why?
John Wayne, because he died.
Hey, John, you're a legendary filmmaker, and you're a legend for a reason. You do it all. But what would you say to a guy, a little writer like myself, who's trying to go into business with someone like you? What kind of advice would you give?
First of all, there's no such thing as a little writer. Get that out of your vocabulary, young man. No. If a kid who grew up in Bowling Green, Kentucky, can sit up here and talk about the movies he's made, I'm a bum, dude. You can rule the world. You've got to keep working. Keep at it. Extend your friendships. Network with people. But don't ever give up hope. Never give up. There's no such thing as a little writer. You keep going, all right? All right.
That would have been my question too. There.
Hi, Mr. Carpenter. So one of my favorite films of yours is Big Trouble in Little China. And I remembered reading that initially it wasn't planned to be sort of a modern story. It was maybe imagined typically to be an Old West film. I'd read that. I don't know if that's true or not.
It was a Western originally.
Okay. My question is, was it always meant to sort of be subversive in the way that your typical like action star is one of the least useful people in the plot? And like how easy was that to sell to the studios?
I don't think they knew that's what we were doing. You know, they wanted Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's what they wanted. And when you read the story, this guy's an idiot. He's a blowhard. He is the second banana and he doesn't know it. And that was the whole joke of the film. So Kurt went along with it. And the studio didn't know this till the very end. And they were shocked. I got a lot of crap for it, you know. Well, wait a minute, what have you done? I had to add that opening scene where Victor Wong says he was very brave at the studio's request to tell the audience your hero's brave. No, he's not. He's an idiot.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm a big fan of The Thing, and just wondering if the studio came to you and
wanted you to do the remake, like with the Norwegian camp, first off, would you have done it? And if so, or if they gave you enough money,
well, that's a whole other story right there.
Yeah, explain the movie that you would make.
Oh man, I don't want to make that again. I really don't want to make any movies that I've made again.
Well, then how would you have done it differently, or like,
what's that?
How would you progress it then?
I still slow down. Say it again.
How would you like progress it to something else then?
How would I progress what?
Well, I guess the story of the thing with the Norwegian
Oh,
camp.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should do it. I don't think there should be another Halloween. I don't think there should be another thing. I think there's stories that should end, but it's not my call.
The guy with the Superman shirt.
Thank you. I'm also a huge fan of Big Trouble in Little China, the Jack Burton character. In my opinion, the run of movies you did with Kurt Russell, the only thing I can think of that even rivals it is Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro. Like, you guys were just so perfectly in sync. And my question is, were all of those parts written with him in mind? Did you say, like, here's something I could make Kurt do and put him through? Or
No.
how did that come about?
No, they were all written without thinking of him, or me, for that matter, well, for the most part. But early on, I cast him in Escape from New York because I thought he would be good in it. But ever since then, he just sort of came aboard. And we've had a great time together. We're great friends.
Right, the Catwoman.
Hello, you're fantastic.
Thank you
just
very
wanted
much.
to know if you had your opportunity to work on any movie, any script at any time, whether it's been done or not, is there anything that you really wish that you'd been on board for?
Well, I got in this business to make westerns, but they died. They kind of ended with the Sergio Leone westerns in the late '60s. I mean, there have been some, but they died as a genre, and Star Wars took it over, and it became space opera. But I would love to have made westerns. I still would, but I don't know if I want to get up and see the horse shit on the ground. You know?
How about Western in space?
Well, I've been making those, so I'm. Now, you know, guys, I have to go meet my drug dealer soon, so let's take a few more questions here.
Hey, John, big fan.
man.
I read online in an interview with Jamie Lee Curtis that after the first day on Halloween, she thought she did a really shitty job, and you personally phoned her and convinced her she didn't. So I got to ask, first off, is that true? And if so,
Yes,
what did
it's
you
true.
say to her?
Yes, it's true. Well, I said, you're great. You're perfect. Change nothing. You're there. You are this character. You're fantastic. I'm so happy I cast you. You see, actors are unique people. Some of them need tough love. Some of them need gentle love. And at that time, I had a sense that she needed somebody to say that to her. So no, it's true. Absolutely true.
Thank you.
Hey, John, big fan. Having conquered music and film, is there another art form altogether you've been thinking of exploring or
Pornography.
Awesome.
Please.
Hello.
Oh, hi. How you doing?
I recently watched the 1979 Elvis film, the TV movie with Kurt Russell, and it sort of occurred to me that after that, almost every film in the 1980s had Kurt Russell in it. And but I'm just curious on what sort of caught your eye with Kurt, because he was seen more of a Disney actor before that, and you sort of reinvented him as an action movie guy. So what sort of appealed to you about Kurt Russell for casting him in so many of your films and some of your best films?
Kurt and I bonded over craft. And by that I mean he was a Disney-trained actor, and what that means is you walk in the morning and you know how to hit marks, and you say your lines perfectly every time. You come prepared. Kurt is consummate actor in that sense. And I was amazed. Here's a guy with these big goofy ears, and he actually could play Elvis Presley. He became Elvis. I thought, oh my God, this guy's great. He can be an action hero. He can be in comedy. He can do anything. So that's what got me to Kurt. His professionalism, his good spirits, and his abilities.
Any chance of doing another movie with him?
Maybe. You got money? We'll do it.
Apparently not enough.
Hi, Mr. Carpenter. I'm
Hi.
a big fan of your work. I recently watched Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue, the kind of like journey of American horror. And I was wondering, is there any particular horror film that really influenced you in the genre and that really was pivotal in your filmmaking?
Well, there were a whole lot of them, but they're old movies. They go way, way back before. The first slasher film was Psycho. That has to influence everybody who's ever made a horror film. But you go back further than that and look at the early Frankenstein and Dracula movies that Universal made, and the Wolfman, and look at the science fiction monster movies that were made in the 50s. All of those things, accumulate. When you're a director, you sort of borrow from people and get inspired by other people. I was especially inspired in horror by two science fiction movies. One was the original, The Thing from Another World, the Howard Hawks movie of 1951-52. That was a movie where my popcorn went flying in the theater because I was so terrified at a couple of scenes. And believe it or not, this really cheesy 1959 film called The Fly with Vincent Price. I love that damn movie. That thing scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. So it's odd. You take textures or moments out of films that sometimes it's quiet moments and apply them to horror. So I was influenced by the past.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm a big fan of They Live. I'm just really obsessed with that fight scene between Keith David and Rowdy Piper. Was that always planned to be as long? Did it just kind of come out organically? Did you decide to add it in after you saw who was being cast as the lead? I just kind of want to know a little bit more about the genesis of it.
The genesis of the fight it was in the script. And I had cast Roddy and had not finished the script yet. And I figured, well, he knows about fights, so let's do a big one. And what I did in the script was write the beginning of the fight, and then I just said the fight continued to get enough days in the schedule to shoot it right. And then I sat down with Roddy and we talked about how you want to approach this. He said it takes about a month and a half to choreograph a great fight. So I got the legendary stuntman Jeff Amata and Keith David, who's about as far away from a fighter as you can get. He's a Juilliard trained actor. And in my backyard on mats, they came up with that fight over a month and a half. So by the time we hit the street to shoot, they had it down cold. They were making contact with each other. They weren't doing movie hits. They were hitting each other, but they knew how to pull it so it looked good. They were fabulous. You took a wrestler and a Juilliard actor, and we had this fight scene. And it was I'm just so proud of it.
Blue shirt.
The Babe in back, yeah.
Hi.
Hiya.
My favorite movie of all time is Halloween. I've seen it so many times I can't even count. I was wondering why the movie that the kids are watching is The Thing. Why did you put that in the movie?
That was back in the days before video cassettes per se. I had this very, I can't remember the name of it, very strange video player. And I only had a few horror movies. I had The Thing, I had Forbidden Planet. So I brought my player and hooked it up to the TV and we shot it just because we didn't have any money. That's why.
The guy in the front line.
Hi, John. I wanted to know, with the diversity of all the stories that you told in the past, are there any that you would like any new stories that you would like to tell, to share, approach?
That's a great question. Yeah, there are a lot of them, but you know, Hollywood has changed since I got in the movie business. And I'm a Hollywood director. I make theatrical films. So some of the ideas that I have really wouldn't fit in today's market. It's become really a different place. But I occasionally work on things, sure. We'll see. And now I'm starting to Jones, guys. Let's get these questions.
Hello, John.
How are you?
Fantastic. My son asked the earlier questions, and I wanted to point out that, not realizing some of them, but I've been raising my son off of a lot of your movies. And he loves them. He's a diehard fan of non-CGI, the original methods. He loves that stuff. And my question is simply, is there a movie that you would like to or wanted to see a sequel, not a remake, but a continuation on the story? I always thought that Big Trouble in Little China could have went on with that character.
Yeah, that's probably the one that has the most potential, as we follow Jack Burton for a little bit longer. We could also probably follow Snake Plissken for a little while, maybe in another movie. Maybe.
Up there.
Hey, John.
How are you?
So when you're working, you're creating music, film, stories. So what do you do when you're not working? Like, how do you chill and relax? What do you do for fun?
I play video games. I watch
Really?
NBA basketball. I watch the news. I play video games. That's basically it. What's that? Let's see. I'm right now playing Far Cry 3. I finished. Now, the one that got great reviews was BioShock Infinite.
Yeah.
And people think it's great. I was really disappointed in it. But really disappointed. But I loved Dead Space 3. I thought that thing was awesome. I know people are disappointed it was on a snow planet and a frozen planet. Dead Space would make a great space horror movie. Would just be great. Oh, that thing is hard to get through. I'm looking forward to, let's see, in the United States next week will be, maybe out now, Dead Island, Riptide, and I'm not sure what else is coming out, but there are some great games. Oh, Tomb Raider. Buy the new Tomb Raider. It's awesome.
Are you by any chance consulting to any game?
What's that?
Are you developing any game? Consulting?
No, I'm playing, dude. Playing.
So John, a question for you, or actually not a question, more of a advice for you.
Oh, okay.
No, okay.
Let me wake up. Hang on.
No. As we were in the lineup, we were signing the comic. I guess it was Asylum. Is that right? So why don't you license your movies out to the comic media, and then take that money and then produce more films?
You know what? That's a great idea, except the movie business doesn't work that way. The studios own your movies when they release them. They get all the rights. They're not dumb. So that's how it works.
Kickstarter. But I still think the comic media is another way that you can advance yourself and explore your other things.
Thanks for the advice. That's good.
Hello, John. I just wanted to say this past Halloween, I showed my girlfriend a slew of horror movies because she wanted to get educated. I showed her everything, and at the end I said, which was the best? And she said, Halloween. And I said, why? She goes, because it was scary and well made. And
You have a smart, beautiful girlfriend.
I do. My question was, since you're a hero of mine, and you know, I'm an up-and-coming writer-director. I was wondering what it was like to meet John Wayne when you were an up-and-comer.
Unbelievable. There's only two people in my life that were larger than life. Literally by how tall they were, but by the persona, and that's John Wayne and Hulk Hogan. I looked up to them as like, oh my God, you guys are giants. John Wayne was huge. He was exactly who he portrays. Exactly. Hulk was a little different, but.
One thing I wanted to ask you about was just watching some of your movies over the past little while, and movies from The Thing, Ghosts of Mars even, which no one's really talked about here. That space in the narrative that creates the tension. And I'm wondering, is that a byproduct of not being the CGI that watching The Thing right back to back, I saw the petrified forest with Humphrey Bogart, and I thought to myself, my God, it's kind of the same theme of the movie, except the aliens, Humphrey Bogart, you know, the gangster in this one.
Well, okay, all suspense and all thrills and all emotions come from the story that you're telling. And each one is different, so you can't apply rules from one to the other. Petrified Forest is really pretty far away from The Thing. But in terms of The Thing, it was a novella written back in the 30s with the idea that an alien life form can imitate perfectly a human being, so that the people that he knows can't recognize him. Who goes there? Well, which is a fascinating idea. And when you start picking it apart, it's the land of doom. I mean, there's no way to escape from that. So, believe me, everything comes from story. That's where it starts, that's where it ends. So all the suspense, or lack of it, comes from the story.
Okay.
Just on the
We
subject
have
of
5
video
more minutes,
games,
2 more questions.
would you ever consider writing a video game?
Doing what?
Writing a video game?
Sure.
Awesome.
Hi. So earlier there was a question as to whether there's any more movies or stories you'd like to tell, and you said Hollywood's changed a lot since then. Would you perhaps consider going into, say, independent film to tell the stories or movies?
Yeah, I've done that. Maybe. I'd be brutally frank with all of you because you're so nice to come here. I have worked nonstop for about 40 years. I am fucking lazy. I want to kick back and relax.
Okay, and last question.
Hi, John.
Hey.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. When you were making The Thing, did you inform the other actors on who was The Thing?
No.
No?
No. I told them, all of them, to come up with backstories. Who are you, really? The most interesting one was the doctor, Richard Dysart's character. He told us he was a Russian spy who had snuck into the camp and taken over. So, listen, guys, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
And thank you.